It's hard to believe that Resident Evil 3 Nemesis released 26 years ago on the PlayStation and then ported to other systems later down the line. Its 26th anniversary on the 22nd of September this year. And still to this day, this game is not only fun to play, but it never fails to keep you on your toes at all times, due to how unexpected it can be. What isn't hard to believe is that Resident Evil 3 Remake released 5 years ago and looks and plays similar to any horror game released nowadays. Heck, most modern games are quite samey and lack anything interesting when it comes to gameplay and story, and it also fails as badly as a remake of Resident Evil 3. As I promised in my last video, I will be going over the opening sequences of both games, and I will be going into more depth and analysis on how they introduce the characters, build tension, atmosphere, decision making, and freedom to explore, and most importantly, how they build up the introduction to the Nemesis. Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, I am Snowy, an autistic girl that loves Resident Evil and horror. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, since making these videos take a very long time to make and full of effort and everything, and subscribing would truly be appreciated, guys. So thank you very much and welcome aboard. And now let's begin the video. Let's start with the main protagonist of the game, the one and only Miss Jill Valentine. She makes her introduction by escaping her apartment by dodging an explosion like a badass. Not even 5 minutes into the game. Jill shows us how determined she is to survive, but not only that, how physically and mentally strong she has become since the Spencer Mansion incident. You know, breaking down that steel door does take a lot of upper body strength, you know, and those are muscle. After all she's been through, Jill remains kind and compassionate. And one other thing a lot of people seem to forget is that Jill, also like Claire, has a motherly-like nurturing side, which adds to her femininity. Jill has a strong sense of anger and resentment towards the Umbrella Corporation for not only causing the incident in the Arklay Mountains and now Raccoon City, but for the deaths of many people, including her STARS teammates, due to their bio-experiments and cover-ups. Also bear in mind, Jill decided to stay in Raccoon City after Chris and Barry left in late August, since she thought that there was still something in the city worth investigating. Jill has a sense of calm and knows how to deal with certain situations, like in the beginning when she is surrounded by zombies, you know, coming from all ends, and you never see Jill panic at all. And she doesn't make stupid decisions either. She always stays calm even when she knows the odds are against her. Another thing Jill has is that she's also very intelligent. She uses that to an advantage to survive certain situations, and not forgetting she's also the master of unlocking as well, which due to her lock picking skills will allow her to unlock the most toughest of locks to help her out of those sticky situations. But not only that, she was part of Delta Team before she joined STARS, so she was trained in bomb disposal. Maybe that might come in handy too in Raccoon City. And also Jill's design in this game is memorable. The blue tube top, the mini skirt, the boots. I love Jill's design in this game, and some people also shit on this design because why is she wearing this? But it's the 90s. It just shows that Jill has great fashion sense, and yet people shit on this design so badly. But I just seem to think that she's wearing this outfit because she got caught up in Raccoon City and she didn't have a chance. I think she was just going out for a night on the town, letting her hair down, and then this happened. Or, you know, she probably knew Raccoon City was going to happen, she just didn't give a shit and just wore it anyway. That sounds like Jill to me. The queen of fashion sense. Oh, and her voice in this game, I have to say, they made a right choice with the casting of the voice of Jill in this game.
September 28th, daylight. The monsters have overtaken the city.
Absolutely amazing voice. And I can't remember the voice, I can't remember her name. Oh, sorry guys. Do tell that in the comments though. But yeah, it just adds to Jill's soft personality, her femininity and everything. She doesn't come off across like a bitch, you know, she doesn't come across as an edgelord or anything. She just is Jill, and that's it. Even though, yeah, there are times that Jill can be quite, you know, she does the slappy, but she doesn't do that in a violent way. I'll probably bring that up in the next video when analysing Jill or something. In this game, she is just an awesome character and is the one and only Jill Valentine. Overall, Jill in this game is just the Jill we saw from Resident Evil 1, but she has grown as a character since then. She's grown stronger mentally and physically, but you can still tell that the trauma of the mansion incident has still affected her, but she won't allow it to affect her. She won't allow Umbrella to win and beat her. Well, she wants justice most importantly, but she will not allow Umbrella to take over her life, ruin her life, and hurt other innocent people in the process. Let's move on to the next character, shall we? The next character Jill comes across is STAR's Alpha Team pilot, Brad Vickers, who we see a few times via gameplay and cutscenes. We also see a glimpse of him barging through a door, terrified for his life, running away from something, not just the zombies. And we can tell it's not just the zombies, even though there's a huge ton of them behind him. Eventually we meet Brad again in Bar Blackjack, having trouble fighting off a zombie with the last of his strength. Though you can also help kill the zombie. You don't have to, it's down to you, it's a choice if you want to save ammo. So Brad manages to kill the zombie and then he falls to the ground in exhaustion. And that's where Jill has this short conversation with Brad, and you can hear Brad explain his frustrations with what's going on in the city, knows that the police haven't got any training or experience to deal with BOWs, and finally he warns us about one other thing that is apt to STAR's members. You know what we're talking about here. We can see in this scene Brad is scared, but you can also feel the pain and terror in his voice as he speaks of a certain stalker. But you know that he is close to giving up due to mental exhaustion. You'll probably tell deep inside he'd just rather be dead, and also regrets joining STARS. Brad knows him and Jill stand no chance against this thing, but you do know he wants to desperately live as well and not go down without a fight. Brad was known as Chicken Heart by his STARS colleagues due to having a fear of dying, and does not have much combat experience. One important thing to note is that he sided with Chief Irons due to fear of losing his job. As mentioned in the note in the remake, it's not really particularly said in the original. You will find it on Resident Evil Wiki, but it was stated in one of the Japanese strategy guides for the game. Let's talk about Mr. Dario Rosso. We come across him right at the start of the game. He is very distressed, which we can't blame him because we'd all be like that if we were in that situation. And it comes across as rude, though like I said, you cannot blame him for that. He refuses to leave with Jill and would rather starve than be eaten by zombies, since he saw his family members being eaten alive, and he and his daughter got separated some time ago, and she too was eventually killed. Editing Snowy here. While writing this script and doing research, I kind of found something that, in Dario's biography, that his daughter wasn't separated, that she did die, but I don't know, I probably got confused there, who knows, but we all know that they got separated as Dario says in the game. I guess maybe I was reading it wrong in the wiki. It does happen, but I thought I'd just mention it here. Dario had dreams of becoming a novelist and regretted of not doing so because his mother told him, well, that's not a stable career for you. And she suggested to him that maybe he should become a salesman instead, which is apparently, according to Dario's mother, a stable career, going around houses and pissing people off by giving sales. Nobody likes salesmen. Do you guys, the viewer, do you like salesmen? People knocking on your door saying, hey, would you like this? Name anybody who would like that at your door. Overall, Dario in this game is just a definition of a broken man who's lost everything in his life, his family, his job, his livelihood, everything, and is just filled with deep regret of what he could have done in his life. Raccoon City happened, unfortunately, but he's just a man who's completely and utterly broken inside and out. Now it's time to talk about how the remake handled these characters. When you start the game, you find Jill in her apartment having a nightmare about becoming a zombie, and shows how traumatized she is due to the mansion incident. Jill mentions that the nightmares happen every single night and increase in intensity. Another thing we can tell is she's never gone out, probably not since the mansion incident, due to the fact that she's been obsessively investigating Umbrella, and her apartment looks like a shithole. You can also see food on the counter that she has not washed pots or anything, which tells you that, yeah, she is some kind of, I don't want to come up with a word for that now. Jill is also having thoughts of committing suicide due to the fact you can see pills on her stand, which, yeah, that is a sign right there. In this version, there is a file that she was suspended by Irons, though it is unknown how she got suspended. But in the original game, it was Chris who got suspended for spilling hot coffee on an officer on purpose, but he planned it, as can tell by his reactions after it happened. I don't think I have any footage of Jill's diary because I didn't do it on my stream and I completely fucked up. My bad. Jill does not come across as someone who is taking the situation seriously, and at times treats this outbreak as if it's just a normal day. I mean, guys, I'm going to be honest here. Most of the situation she makes it out of in this short sequence is mostly due to luck. That's it. Not because of her intelligence, not because of her skills, it's because plot armor, basically. And also, don't forget this woman is a master of unlocking, right? And you would think she would use that. Nah. Also, I don't think the person who voiced Jill is the right person. I don't know how to describe it, but her tone is just sounds like an edgy teenager rather than a skilled soldier. She curses a bit too much, and sometimes it's a bit understandable in some situations to curse, like when something shocks you, like say holy shit, but I just think she swears a little too much in just stupid situations, and after time it really does become really stupid. Anyway, let's move on to our favourite pilot, Brad Vickers, shall we? In this version, Brad doesn't come across as someone who is terrified for his life, endlessly running away from an unstoppable entity. Instead, he comes across as very calm and laid back, live and let live, treating everything like nothing is going on at all. When you do come across him after you escape from you-know-who, Brad just seems disinterested in the appearance of the you-know-what, but he doesn't seem as scared as he does in the original. Is that just me? It could be. No, maybe not. Oh, and he doesn't meet the same demise as he does in the original game. He gets killed by zombies in this game by sacrificing himself. And to be honest with you, this feels a bit forced to me because, well, let's take Richard from RE1 Remake, for example. Richard sacrificing himself in RE1 Remake is more emotional since Richard actually cares. He's actually a good teammate. He's a kind-hearted teammate that will do anything for his teammates, even killing himself. Richard has always been known as a very welcoming guy, as said in the RE1 biography, that he would welcome new members into Stars. Imagine if Richard acted like this if you meet him in both RE1 and its remake, and he goes, "Hey dudes, what's up? Oh yeah, there was this enormous poisonous snake and it bit me, dude. But I managed to find some herbs and dude, they make a good cigarette. It's some good shit, dude. Hey, why do you have two heads? I'm so wasted, dude." Okay, dude, do whatever. I'm good here. Hey, dudes, while you're there, can you go and see if you can find me a TV? I'm so bored, dude. Dude. Yeah, that just shows that you're not taking the situation seriously at all, and that's just exactly what Brad is like in this game. You're making everything bland and unemotional, but that's why it feels like he's forced sacrificing himself. Even when you do see the zombies coming through the fence, he doesn't sound terrified, but he doesn't sound as scared as he does in the original. And yet, some people say this is an improvement of his character, more like a downgrade if you ask me. If I was one of the people who did think this was an improvement once upon a time. Now, 5 years later, it feels like the writers needed to find a way to kill Brad off early, and that's just completely wasted potential. And then you quickly forget about him, and who's Brad? Does anyone know who Brad is? Because I can't remember who Brad Vickers is. Crying out loud, he doesn't even warn you of the Nemesis. Oh yeah, there's no need to, darn it. So, what about Dario then? Well, he's just a grumpy, angry old man, and that is just plain rude. There's no backstory either. So, without that context, well, he's just a jerk, really. He doesn't even mention his daughter or his family being separated from his daughter. No. Instead, Dario makes snide comments to Jill, calling her Missy in the most condescending way, and suggests if she wants to help, she should handcuff herself to one of the zombies. What a complete, utter asshole. My god. In the original, you felt his pain, anger, and despair. And yeah, he was a bit rude, but when you found out he lost his family and daughter, you can understand the way he acted the way he did there. Here it just sounds like a grumpy old fart, like a real-life version of Eustace Bat from Courage the Cowardly Dog, that would just yell at the sky for looking at him funny and yells, "Stupid sky! You made me look bad!" Sadly, I don't know what happens to Dario after Jill leaves the warehouse, since you can't return to it like you do in the original game, and his fate is unknown. But in the OG, he does eventually leave the container and he gets ambushed and eaten and killed by zombies. But you don't know everything about this character, sadly. There's no backstory or context. Maybe there is if you can find on a website, but from what I've seen, there isn't much about him. Even on the wiki page I checked, there was no backstory much to him. I think most of it was reused from the original, but I couldn't see much at all, even though I probably didn't read it because I was not interested. Yeah, they could have given him the Robert Kendo treatment, but nope. Even still, Robert Kendo in 2-Mate wasn't great anyway. So yeah, let's just move on to the next section. As soon as we leave the warehouse, we are free to explore the streets of Raccoon City. And it's fucking awesome. In RE2, we only saw a little glimpse of Raccoon City and spent the rest of the game in the RPD. Now we can finally see it to the fullest. Everything to the city's layout and major places the player visits throughout the game is beautifully executed. The city feels alive and vibrant, showing us what daily life in Raccoon City was before the outbreak began. There are bars, shops, alleyways that connect to each other, and even a boutique that feels safe and calm when you enter it, as if the hell going on outside doesn't exist. This is where you can change Jill's outfits using a new Game Plus save. The streets have seen better days. Broken glass, debris covers the floor, barricades have been torn down due to the high increase in the living dead, a dead body that holds a shotgun, crashed cars, a fire hydrant bursting out water. The amount of detail on these pre-rendered backgrounds is astounding, and it still stuns me after all these years after its release. Every area has its own identity that does not only make it distinguishable, but memorable. I don't know about you, but I love the colour palette of the backgrounds when it comes to classic RE games. It just makes the environments pop, in my opinion. This is something that was lost in the later titles when the games had just different shades of browns or lots of shades of the same colour like grey or whatever. It made the areas look bleak and dull. Every part of the city is slowly dying before our eyes, and in the background you can hear the sound of zombies groaning in the distance, reminding Jill and the player that you are on your own and there is nobody coming to save you. You are alone and feel a sense of helplessness, not just for Jill, but for anybody still alive in this nightmare. You can also hear someone being attacked and eaten alive by zombies, hearing the sound of human flesh being ripped from its bones. This gives not only just Jill, but you, the player, a feeling of despair and guilt, knowing if you got there a little bit sooner, you could have saved that person, which not only Jill feels responsible for, but so do us, the player. Don't forget, this is all presented via gameplay and no dialogue. Just shows you how strong the atmosphere is here. If this was a modern game, they would show it in a cutscene, which takes away the feeling of guilt away from the player. Speaking of sound design, let's talk about the soundtrack. The music in this game does an absolute stellar job. Every single track does a job of building tension and letting the player know something bad is going to happen, or when you know who will appear. Another thing to know is when something bad is going to happen is when no music plays at all. This also happened in the previous games as to display a sense of foreboding, sense of fear. And not only is the game's soundtrack S tier, but every single track is memorable and iconic, but it makes you tread carefully since you don't know what's lurking behind the corner. Overall, Raccoon City feels full of life, but it doesn't feel like a generic Midwestern American city. It has a unique feel to it unlike any other, making it one of the most memorable fictional cities in video game history. The ambiance makes you feel isolated, giving you a sense of helplessness, making you feel what's in the next area. The pre-rendered backgrounds are full of detail that every single one of them tells the story of what happened before Jill entered. One thing I like is the posters on the walls, and one of them is advertising an upcoming concert on September 30th, which leaves you feeling, well, sad, since that will never happen. And the music fits the setting of the atmosphere of the game perfectly. Some tracks differ from making you feel isolated, some are relaxing but are ominous, and some let you know when danger is imminent. Everything about this opening sequence is just perfection, and I wouldn't change anything about it at all. Surely it can't get any better, right? When Jill leaves her apartment after a bad cutscene, you can now see Raccoon City in wonderful PS4 graphics in 4K, and I must admit, it looks gorgeous, but it's very sad that you can't even soak in the atmosphere, since there's barely anything to see. You can hear sirens, which takes away the feeling of isolation and helplessness the OG had, and also it doesn't make sense since the RPD were massacred by that time, so what are the sirens for? Oh yeah, I forgot. This is a reimagining, not a remake. The original lore doesn't work here. Oopsie! You can also see people running for their lives, which is a nice touch, but this game takes place on September 28th, 1998, and by that time most civilians have either been turned into living dead or killed themselves at this point. Yeah, there was a few people, but about 3 if lucky, and it'd be rare to run into another living human being by that time in the outbreak. I swear, why change this? If this was fine to begin with. In the beginning, you can hear someone scream before you arrive at the bar, but it feels lackluster in my opinion, since you are not alone and there was just a helicopter flying around just seconds before and then it explodes. How does this set up tension? Feels more like a scene from Resident Evil Apocalypse. Everything feels bombastic and just right in your face, no build up at all. As you progress through the city, you can see once again another helicopter and the pilot telling you to get to the parking garage. Again, where is the feeling of loneliness here when you can literally hear everything in the background? Why would there be a helicopter? Since by this time nobody was being sent in to help, since it was too risky to send anybody into the city. In the Darkside Chronicles retelling of RE2, there was someone telling any survivors to make their way to the RPD. But guess what? It was eerily quiet, since not much people were alive at this point. Only 2 or 3 RPD officers were still alive, but 2 were killed when you arrived at the police station. Bear that in mind. There were no helicopters, no sirens, nothing. Just the moans of zombies in the distance telling you that nobody else is alive but the main characters. Throughout this opening sequence, you are basically just rushing through each area, all while lackluster jump scares thrown at you along the way. As soon as you make it to the parking garage, you have more explosions in your face. Jill decides to go for a drive for some reason, and then more explosions. Seriously, we're not even 20 minutes into the game, and there has been more boom booms than when Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament. Oh yeah, let's talk about the music. What music? I swear, I just watched the video showing this whole shitfest, and I can't for the life of me remember any track in this whole opening sequence. All I can hear is noise, since there's hardly any music playing due to the whole sirens in the background thing going on. There's nothing about the music in this game that builds up tension, let you know when something bad is gonna happen. No relaxing melody. It's like they didn't care about the atmosphere of the game and it was just a complete afterthought. I know the soundtrack was composed by the legendary composer of RE1 to 3, Masami Ueda, and most of the tracks in the remake are just remixed tracks of the original with something new added to it, which is a step up from 2Make's OST, but I don't sadly see it in this opening sequence. Overall, what can I say about this? Well, like I said in my previous video, 3Make's version does not live up to what the original did. We hardly see anything of Raccoon City in this whole sequence, since the game has to rush everything and not let you breathe for 1 second, whereas the original took time and allowed the player to soak in the atmosphere and the layout of Raccoon City. Plus you also had to deal with lots of zombies and even dogs with limited resources. sources. No areas of the original have been recreated, maybe bar Blackjack, but I don't think it looks anything like it did in the original. Besides, we don't even come across a bar in the original until about 20-25 minutes into the game. In the remake is about hardly 10 minutes with no gameplay. Everything here is just lackluster music, tension and art design. I can't describe in words on how disappointing this whole sequence just feels. It's like if Michael Bay met Resident Evil 6 on steroids. It just goes to show that old games are way better than new games, for sure. Let's talk about decision making. RE3 adds a lot of new mechanics to make the game feel fresh and balanced, but not only that, it adds one important mechanic that was not seen again in the series until decades later, that introduces us to the first layer of decision making in this game, and that is gunpowder. At the start of the game, we have two instruction manuals in our inventory. One is for gameplay mechanics and life selection, and the other explains in more detail about gunpowder and what kinds of ammo you can make, from simple handgun bullets all the way up to magnum rounds. Plus, RE3 also added freeze rounds, which will come in handy later on, believe me. It tells you about the reloading tool, which is used to combine with the gunpowder to make ammo. You can also use the grenade rounds as well to combine with it. What makes the gunpowder system so great is that it adds another layer of complexity by adding the enhanced ammo, which is way more a stronger variant of the original handgun and shotgun ammo, though it can only be used in the original Samurai Edge and the Benelli shotgun. Which, with this added choice, not only does it add complexity to it, but it allows the player to not only experiment with the gunpowder, but gives them choices to how they want to use it, and rather just save the gunpowder seeds to make freeze rounds or magnum or anything. That would be useful for later in the game. Each side has their own pros and cons. For example, if you manage to get the STI Eagle and Western Custom Shotgun, decide to use the enhanced ammo, for example. Using these weapons would make them useless in a way, because like I said, you can only use them in the original handgun and shotgun. Whatever you choose, I can guarantee it would make every one of your playthroughs feel special. So have fun and enjoy the ride, okay? You will find gunpowders in multiple areas throughout the game, though some may be in different areas depending on your playthrough, so bear that in mind. Speaking of the areas, let's talk about the exploration and mostly freedom of play. When we fully gain control of Jill, we are able to explore the streets of Raccoon City and its narrow alleyways. Regardless of where you go, your destination will be the same, but you can go in whatever direction you please. Maybe you're curious about one area you haven't explored yet and decide to check it out and see if it might either change the outcome of your playthrough or if there's any useful supplies like ammo or herbs. These areas are designed with exploration in mind, allowing the player to think for themselves and which is the best direction to go, unlike in modern games where it consistently holds your hand and tells you where to go and what to do. Like we're either babies or morons that can't put on our clothes correctly, you know. I mean, I never liked that about modern games. In classic RE games, exploration is the name of the game. You have to check every nook and cranny for any items that could be useful for you to progress, since some items can be very well hidden in sight. But in RE3, since the game is more open world, you have to memorize the layout, and that can aid you in your chances of surviving significantly. One thing you can do in this open section of the game is trigger the part where you find Dario's daughter. And yes, I think it's Dario's daughter, even though it's not confirmed, but most people have said it is. Let's just call her female civilian, okay? So we find the female civilian quite earlier on, which adds so much replay value. Though I'm not entirely sure you can return to the warehouse container this soon in the game. I've never tried it, and I don't think the container will be open yet. So best off to give it a little bit longer. The game rewards you for putting in the time to explore these zombie-infested streets with either ammo or gunpowder. The most important reason why this city is designed the way it is: control. Allowing the player to get used to the controls like the 180, shooting at objects, like the explosive barrels, and finally, the dodge mechanic. This is the perfect time to try out and practice it by using it on the zombies as your training dummies to pull off the dodge, since it's difficult and requires very strict timing on the input. But when you pull it off, either by accident or purpose, it feels really good, like you're some kind of action movie hero or something. Plus it will come in handy when it comes to a certain statewide monster. There is so much that goes on in these first 20 to 25 minutes of the game, like how it introduces you to the new gameplay mechanics, and you are already making decisions even without realizing it, like the gunpowder system, or choosing to trigger part of the game early, or practicing certain gameplay mechanics, and even helping Brad with a zombie and bar blackjack as well. Don't forget that bit. Everything is paced really well, allowing the player to explore Raccoon City at their own pace without having everything shoved in their face at once, without letting them take it all in first, letting them get used to the game's controls and mechanics, and just making their own decisions on how they want to use the gunpowders, and decide what zombies they want to kill or shouldn't kill, since you can backtrack to these areas later on in the game and they may become a pain later on, or you could just avoid them like in the previous games. That's the beauty of survival horror. I'm not sure if it's just me, but I love examining things in classic RE games and seeing what the characters say about a particular object or sign on the wall, literally anything. I fucking love it so much, and then it makes you want to explore everything in this damn city. Areas, rooms, that is one thing that is missing from these modern RE engine Resident Evil games. Also, the last time I checked, examining certain objects can sometimes give you some clues on how to solve a puzzle. Not to mention, it's a good way of environmental storytelling besides using files, of course. I just miss it so much. That is all I can say on that. Well then now, shall I talk about how the remake handle this? Alrighty then! What can I say here? Just to note, I do know the gunpowder system from the original made it back into the remake, but I'm not sure as of writing the script it has the same complexity as it does of OG RE3. I will maybe look into it. I'm not sure if the enhanced ammo made a return, but when talking about this opening sequence, there's no kind of decision making from what I can see. Like I said in the previous, like I said earlier in the video, the game's pacing is completely non-existent. Most of the aspect of decision making is allowing the player to think for themselves, but like with any choices in real life, there are pros and cons and even consequences to those choices. Oh, and those game instructions A and B from the original that tells you about the game mechanics and also how to use the gunpowder has been completely removed from this remake, which is not surprising at all. Without this, the player is completely useless on how to use it. I might be wrong on this, but since they got rid of this, tells me the gunpowder system has lost all of its complexity when it comes to making decisions, and even every playthrough will be the same. Editing Snowy here about the game instructions. I did do some research while writing this script and looked up if the game instructions made it into the remake. Found a site that showed all the files in the remake. No, sadly they were not there. This whole remake is one huge big red flag. No, scratch that. A huge red parachute that flies. So the decision making doesn't exist in this opening sequence. So exploration then? I mean, it's a Resident Evil game. Exploration is built into its DNA, so maybe there's hope, right? Nope. Like with decision making and pacing, it's just, yep, you guessed it, it doesn't exist at all. As soon as the real gameplay begins, do note the Dr. Evil quotations here. All control is taken from you. The only thing you can do is press up and that's it. While also interrupting the stellar gameplay, lol, with modern developers' favourite gaming mechanic, forced walking sequences. It's every player's favourite thing they look forward to, having their time wasted for all of the sake of immersion. My god, this whole thing must have been torturous for the speedrunners every time they play through this game. Never mind everybody else. What about Raccoon City? Surely there must be lots of areas we can freely explore like in the original, but more expanded, right? Right? No. Sorry to disappoint you all, but this is not all sunshine and daisies, sadly. There is no exploration at all here in the sequence. Nada, zilch, zero. Just nothing. Oh, and never mind about Dario's daughter that was removed as well. You know, that extra thing that you could unlock earlier in the game. It was just a sequence. Oh, and they also completely removed the Mikhail cutscene, which in the original you could easily miss that cutscene. But they could have added all this in more detail. But I just guess that is just too much work for modern Capcom, isn't it? As a remake of Resident Evil 3, you would expect to find areas and streets we remember from the original game, you know, just in 4K graphics. And not only that, there should be some new areas, just like in how an RE1 remake did it, which is still the king of remakes, by the way. All that is here is just a normal boring city that is completely forgettable. We can't even see it due to the fact the game won't even let the player explore these areas, as if the devs think the normal gamer is Dark Side Phil and think we are incapable of using that fleshy pink cap in between our ear holes, called a brain, to make decisions apparently. Like if the players let off the leash and can explore this city, they will struggle with it or something, you know? I didn't know gamers enjoyed being talked down to like a child. This Raccoon City was not designed to be fully explorable. Like in the original, it's just a showpiece for those pretty graphics. The only areas that was in the OG that made it into the remake was Bar Blackjack and Blue Mountain Warehouse, that's it. So you can't even spend enough time in them anyways. A, it's a cutscene, and B, is just there so Dario can insult you, basically. Also, the stairs have been blocked off by junk, so that's another middle finger to exploration.
Sounds like a lot of
Gee, I'm starting to think Capcom doesn't like the classics. Oh, right, they don't. They actually said this last month in a GOG article that the classic games are not worth preserving since the remakes are the superior experience. Remember guys, old games are bad and new games are good, according to Capcom. You know, you do get to shoot some zombies in this opening sequence, but it's nothing really too exciting that will make you cry tears of joy. And don't get me started on the whole RE6 QuickTime events. Did this have to exist? Did the devs actually think this is awesome gameplay? This isn't even gameplay. This is what I call fake gameplay. When the game makes you think that you are playing a game, but in reality the game is playing you, while the game tells you where to go since there's no other way. I have nothing against games that are linear experiences, but even with games, for example, like MGS1, that game is kind of linear since you're basically going in a straight line, but like the RE games, the game rewards you for exploration and backtracking with weapons, ammo and other supplies, which can help you with a certain sniper, for example. It also lets you take in the environments and atmosphere, making every area in Shadow Moses memorable. Oh yeah, and it has way better pacing. How could I forget that? And it works since the Metal Gear series is more narratively driven than RE, so it makes sense to make it linear. But with this, they don't do anything to hide its linearity. Yeah, they use some zombies, but that doesn't do much. Actually, it just makes it more obvious, if anything, to how bare bones anything is in this game. To end this section, all I can say is, what the fuck was Capcom thinking? This is all... I can't. I just can't. Well, let's talk about the star of the show, Nemesis, and see how both games build up his introduction. I can't make an RE3 video without talking about our favourite stalker and BOW Nemesis. That would be an absolute crime, wouldn't it? Let's see how Nemi is presented in the original. At the beginning of the game, we feel something's off, like a calm before the storm, you know? As I mentioned in my previous video, when we start the game, we have no idea who Nemesis is. He's like a dark presence looming over us as we make our way through the streets of Raccoon City, thinking the entire time, when are we going to encounter this new foe, which adds a fear of the unknown? I mean, Resident Evil games are known for having an enemy or boss that will make everything more harder, like I always say. Things are never going to be easy when you escape a hellhole, and that leads you to be more cautious of your surroundings than ever, especially if you played the previous games. It isn't until you find Brad at Bar Blackjack and he warns you about the presence of the Nemesis that he has been sent in to eliminate all STARS members who all stand that this thing is not here to play games and he means business. In Brad's tone of voice, he's absolutely terrified, which you can probably tell he's already encountered Nemesis. Which, if you've played the Nintendo 64 version of RE2, there are extra files which is made specifically for that version called EX files, which are meant to bridge in the gap between RE1 and 2 while introducing plot elements from RE0, the cancelled Nintendo 64 version, RE3, Code Veronica, and even some people have suggested Outbreak because it mentions the Hunter R's. And one of those files is Brad's note, which you can find in the place you encounter the zombified version of Brad. In the file, he writes that Nemesis, he specifically calls him that monster in the black suit, has been stalking him for quite some time and wonders what he did to deserve this, even regrets joining STARS. Nemesis truly wants some stars, you know what I mean. After Brad leaves, everything feels menacing, since now you know that something is after STARS members. You are also a target, meaning after Nemesis has disposed of Brad, you are next in line, even though you are scared of what is to come. Standing twiddling your thumbs is not going to help you get out of the city. You have to press forward, regardless of how tense the atmosphere has now become. As you progress through the city, feeling a sense of knowing something really bad is going to happen, but you just don't know where or when it will happen. So what do? Arm yourself to the teeth, of course. Oh, and it's better safe than sorry. One thing you begin to notice is when you're near the RPD, there will be no music, just ambient sounds of the wind blowing, the moans of zombies in the far distance, the sound of fire crackling, water gushing out of a broken fire hydrant, the sounds of crows carting. Whenever there is silence in an RE game, you fucking know that something is gonna go down. This is what I love about the old RE games, is how they use silence as a way to build tension to let the player know danger is coming. In the modern RE games, about 80 to 90% of the game is silent. That tells you how the devs do not know how to build tension anymore. But they are good at making really lame and cheap jump scares that you can see from a mile away. And then you enter the gates of the RPD. That memorable cutscene plays where we are finally introduced to the Nemesis, seeing Brad brutally murdered before Jill's eyes, and then utters one word it can say: STARS! Basically telling the player, you're fucked. Even as soon as we see Nemesis in all his glory, you can tell that this thing is nothing like Mr. X from RE2 or the T-002 from RE1. Just from this cutscene alone, the fact Nemesis can speak is also another sign Nemi does not fuck around at all. Do bear in mind, at this point in the timeline, the Nemesis T-type is the first tyrant that can speak, carry weapons, and have actual intelligence. Every other tyrant does not have that. Yeah, the T-103 was able to understand orders that it was given. And all Stitchface was originally a T-103 tyrant before the Nemesis Alpha Parasite was implanted. This game does a fantastic job of introducing us to the Nemesis by actually taking its time and allowing the player to take in everything around them, making tension that gives off a foreboding dread that looms all over us the whole time. And the mood actually changes as we get closer to the destination. The ambience gets higher, giving a bad omen-like sensation. One thing this also does, I'll add important context, is how Brad became the living dead as we saw him in RE2, linking both games together effortlessly. It's just genius. The best decision they made was killing Brad in front of Jill, since it shows how ruthless and determined Nemesis is, not only to complete its mission, but that it's also a message that this will happen to you if you're not ready. Do I need to say anything more? This whole sequence is why Nemi is so memorable, but it also does a great job of linking it to the gameplay without using much dialogue. They just don't make them like they used to. Can it get any better? That's the question. We have now reached the remake section, and it's probably the moment you've all been waiting for. Half Remake introduces the Nemesis, and all I can say is, oh boy, we are in for a good ride. I have no idea what Capcom were thinking, but I'm completely gobsmacked. Actually, I still am, 5, nearly 6 years later, after going through that nightmare sequence and then looking around Jill's apartment, and guess who appears by breaking through a wall? And no, it's not Mr. X. It's our favourite, trash bag wearing tyrant Nemesis. I'm not joking, this is how we are introduced to the most menacing villain in the Resident Evil series. By the way, we're not even 10 minutes into the damn game, and we haven't even played it! It can't get any worse, right? Well, yes! Not long after, you are forced into the most stupidest chase sequence I have ever seen in a video game, where you just press up and the game does everything else for you, while making Nemi look like a right idiot. What's insulting is that a door blocked by a bookcase is just too much for this trash bag. But remember, this thing just blasted through the wall just a second ago. And now a bookcase is crossing the line? Okay, but then he breaks through the ceiling a few seconds later. Do you guys feel intimidated by this version of Nemesis? Trash bag? Because I'm sure don't. This thing has plenty of chances to kill Jill, but no, looks like Capcom completely forgot how to make Nemesis an intimidating villain and just threw something at the wall and see if it stuck. What's next? Oh yeah, another boring short chase sequence where you just press up and nothing else. But don't forget, Jill has plot armor, so she luckily manages to survive. You will be hearing more of this. Trash bag gets caught in the apartment rubble. Yeah, rubble. Wow. What a great introduction to the main antagonist of the game. Looks like Capcom just took the book of subtlety and threw it out the window. This is actually how Chief Irons was introduced in Remake. No build up, just, hey, I'm a sadistic psycho, get on the floor now, while holding Claire and Sherry at gunpoint. The same applies to Nemesis. Oh sorry, trash bag. Remember what I said in my last video that showing Nemesis in the intro takes away his mystique? Well, yeah, this is the result. No tension, no terrified Brad letting us know about Nemesis. That is to exterminate all STARS members, no ambience, nothing, just, you want Nemesis? We'll give you Nemesis. I hope you like the new trash bag look, since this is now canon from now on. Sorry not sorry! Just like I said earlier, there is no room to breathe in this game. Just has to get all this done as soon as possible, and it just doesn't make Nemesis scary in the slightest. Why? Because like with Remake, they decided to change certain aspects of the lore that was fine originally, but in terms of this remake, they just chose to have Brad sacrifice himself, well, sacrifice in quotations, to save Jill from the zombies, which is the explanation of how he became a zombie in this reimagined timeline instead of being killed by Nemi, which makes absolute fucking sense since Nemi's whole purpose is to kill surviving STARS officers. Not seeing Brad viciously killed by Nemi doesn't make him intimidating at all. In this game, Trash Bag looks like he got drunk and decided to smash through a wall and decided to kill Jill for no reason. And looks like he's on something, for sure. But wait! It's not over yet! There is more to come! We encounter him again on the roof of the parking garage out of nowhere, then Jill decides to run over Trash Bag with a car while calling him a bitch.
It's my turn, bitch!
Oh my god, I am just so scared right now. Not! Is this a horror game or a Michael Bay movie? Because I'm confused. I thought this was Resident Evil 3. Guess not. As Jill tries to run over our trash bag wearing villain, he manages to strangle her but yet has a great opportunity to break her neck. Sadly, that pesky plot armor gets in the way again and Jill survives a long fall off a building without a scratch on her. You know, I thought facing Nemesis was, meant actual life or death, where every encounter is not only a risk, but will make you suffer the consequences. If you fuck up or if you time that dodge incorrectly, death. But now, Nemesis is beaten by a bookcase, rubble, and a car. Oh, and a fall off a long-story building. Well, moving on with this shit show, Nemesis makes his beautiful baggy appearance by slowly advancing towards Jill while the fire surrounds them. No, walking slow is not Nemesis' style. I think Capcom got confused with Mr. X again. This doesn't make Nemesis a scary threat at all. All this does is waste the player's time. Oh, and that face. A joke. Luckily, here comes Carlos to save the day by calling Trash Bag a fuckface.
Hey! Fuckface!
Looks like they've given up on making this game a bit scary. To be honest, I can't deny that Nemesis in this game does look like a fuckface to a T. Isn't that ironic? One other thing I'm confused by is how did Carlos get that rocket launcher out of his butt? I don't know. Still got big pockets. That is something you get till near the end of the game. I don't recall Carlos in the original having a rocket launcher, since that would have been cheating because Nemesis wouldn't even be a threat, because Nemesis goes down in one go after you hit him with the rocket launcher. It's a one-hit kill down weapon. 90s Capcom was not stupid. Trashbag manages to catch the rocket with its tentacle, which is not bad, but then soon after he flings that rocket and explodes, Nemesis just then stands there, letting Carlos fire another rocket. He doesn't even run up at him or attack him or whatever. Yeah, let's just make the most memorable BOW in RE a straight up pushover. Wow, that's clearly not a red flag for later on, isn't it? My god. This is the worst introduction to any villain ever. Everything here is just a complete disappointment. The pacing, the build-up, making Nemi look like a pushover, the main characters calling him curse words, no environmental storytelling, and the biggest crime, Nemi not killing Brad in front of Jill. I would rather watch paint dry than watch the opening sequence of this damn game. That seems way more interesting. I'm utterly speechless. Before I move on, I would like to talk about Nemesis's redesign in this game real quick. I'm just not a fan of it at all, especially the whole trash bag thing. I can honestly see where they were going with this, but it looks kind of tacky to me. Nemesis's design in the OG is simple, but it works. The black coat that adds to its frightening appearance, and it's also a power limiter to stop the Nemesis alpha parasite from mutating. Just to note. The face, no nose, no lips. You know, the huge teeth showing out. The yellow-like skin that makes him look dead. No longer human though. This thing was once human, but is no longer human. Looks like a Frankenstein. And the voice in the OG was just awesome. It truly sent a chill down your spine every time you heard it. In remakes, I forgot that thing speaks in the game. I guess Capcom fucked up with that. Again! To this day, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is still an awesome game, with huge replay value, art design, character design, story and monsters. It is one of the best video games ever made and is beloved by RE fans all over the world. Like other titles in the series, it still holds a lasting legacy, mostly due to the main villain, Nemesis, which has made many appearances in non-RE titles such as Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Project X Zone 1 and 2, SNK vs. Capcom Card Fighters DS, and also a golf game called Under the Skin, which was a PS2 title, which him and Jill made an appearance. This game's atmosphere is unparalleled. Same goes for the music, and the design of Raccoon City is so well done and memorable. Even when I played this game's opening sequence today, I still get the creeps just thinking about Nemesis. It's truly a great experience. If you are interested in giving the original RE3 a try, I would suggest picking a copy up, since it has been released since this year. It was released on the PS4 and the PS5, along with RE2 this year. And it is on other platforms such as the Dreamcast, the PC and the GameCube, and the PS1 of course. And just enjoy this masterpiece. Sadly, the 2020 remake does not deliver at all, and it fails on everything and spits in the original's face at every chance it gets. Raccoon City is just a normal boring city. The characters are a shadow of their former selves. Decision making and atmosphere is non-existent, no exploration, and the biggest downgrade of all is Nemesis making a complete and total pushover. And a set piece of course, like in the Michael Bay film. Unlike the original, the legacy this game left is a forgettable one. When this game released, it received a ton of backlash since most of the original game's content was removed. But to fix that, Capcom added a multiplayer game called Resident Evil Resistance, which was to make up for the remake being short. It's been 5 years and this game still not received a director's cut, and maybe never will. What hurts me the most is that this game had a potential to be a great remake, but instead it's nothing more than a cash grab that leaves a stain on the legacy of RE3. Hello you beautiful people, if you have made it this far into the video, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. along with any feedback, and also please be respectful and civil in the comments as well. Feel free to share this video. Let's get the word out there. And stay happy, stay safe, stay well, and I shall see you all in the next video.